the preview AP Psychology with Blue Tent Online. I just want to kind of quickly go over what makes up the course of AP Psychology and then discuss a little bit about how I teach this course. So this next year will be a new revision of the course. And what AP has done is take something that used to be 9 units and they've kind of split it up differently. Although a lot of the content is going to be the same, we are going to be working on some different ways that the students will be assessed through the year, but we'll get there. I want to point out that the science practices is something we'll have. It's kind of funny because I'm calling it Unit 0 because this is something that we're going to kind of introduce at the beginning of the year, and then when we'll spend some time on it, and then we'll continue to use it all through the year because you'll kind of see that psychology has been making this transition from a humanities to a science for practically its whole history. So we're going to start with science practices and then move, there's a lot on science practices, to these contents. This is what I wanted to get to. So we'll talk about the biological basis of behavior. We'll look at what does it mean, what is cognition, development and learning, social psychology and personality, and then mental physical health. And you'll see I've divided these up a little bit so that we break things up like development and learning can be broken into parts. And the students will all use a College Board account. So that will, you'll see the AP Classroom will use. And what this allows me to do is to assign the videos that the College Board has used, and also the students will take their assessments through this course page. And that's the AP part of it. And, you know, I don't want to stress too much of the AP exam because I find that most of my AP Psychology students, and I've been teaching this in and out of the classroom since 2010, and then I started teaching online in 2015, and I find that students who are just simply interested and they just find it fascinating. They're like me. They take that first psychology class and they're just hooked, you know. I was going to university to learn to be a mathematics and science teacher, and I took my first class and I'm like, nope, this is what I want to study. And so I still have a lot of mathematics background and a lot of statistics background, but it just is to this day when I'm cooking, I'm listening to something, and the students will see I have so many different optional videos because it is really my passion and what sparks my interest. I don't think I'll ever know enough about myself or about others. So anyways, my point being that if they're very interested in the content, the test is going to come on its own. They're going to naturally learn that, and we'll make sure we practice the skills, the test-taking skills they need. Now I've switched over to the Moodle course page, and this is not necessarily the student view, this is my view, but this way I can show you things. And you'll see I really want to be very clear what students need to do each week. So everything is in these tabs. There's an overview of what's going to be done for the week, and everything is below that. So it's very clear to see what needs to be done each week. At the beginning of the year, there's a strong focus on getting to know our classmates, making sure we know what we need to do, how do we use discussion forums, how can we make videos at the beginning of the year, how are we going to, the reason I put the Zoom meeting always at the beginning of the week is so we can preview what we're going to do. We can also have some discussions, and then I put at the end of every week questions for the next meeting. So anything that we need to wrap up, we have right at the beginning of the week. Getting into, as we start to get into week 2, we get into more of what we're doing. You'll find that whenever we're really starting a unit, so this is unit 0, week 1, I'll always provide students with an overview of what's in that unit. There's a unit planner they can click on, shows them what part of the textbook they're going to need. I'm a real big picture person. I like to see what's going on overall, so I'm always kind of showing the big ideas of what's happening in that unit, and so I share that with students for every unit. And and on this unit planner, it has the objectives. So this is taken right from the CED, that College Board document I showed you, and then it kind of has a list of everything in there in any sort of way, any sort of assessments that are there. So the planning document is always there for students to review, or to review with parents if parents, I'm sure you get what I get. What are you working on? Nothing. Right. And so the degree to which you can have your child communicate what they're learning, this is a good document to talk about together. Sorry, I'm going to close this tab because we don't need it. Close that tab because we're not needing it. A lot of what I have students do when I'm just trying to see what do they get out of something, right? What do they get out of the resources I'm giving them? I'm using concept maps, and a lot of students, this might be new to it. They might be used to being given a reading and have a quiz, or give a reading and answer some questions about what they read. And the reason I don't do that very often, there are some quizzes in there just to self-check, but the reason I don't use that is I find students just look for the answers to the questions, and they may miss quite a bit about what's happening. So what I do is I list resources, and I use a lot of sample concept maps. So I kind of show students what I'm expecting to be there. So we're talking about these psychological perspectives, and I've kind of organized it for them. And some of these boxes I've been doing this for a really long time, so I haven't taken all of these off. The College Board has changed since I've been teaching, changed the course 4 or 5 times. So sometimes these statements aren't, but the main picture is always helpful to help students see what they're trying to get out of the materials that are provided, and on a big picture sort of way. And then when I grade this, I'm just trying to make sure they're using the resources, right? And students, like I said, are so interested in this that's never a problem. What I really ask is that students just don't copy and paste things into those boxes, because then they're not really learning anything. So that usually if I send something back to be corrected in these, it's just because they copied and pasted. If they're trying to put things in their own words, it's going to be very useful. They're going to put together a notebook of concept maps, and it's going to be very helpful when it comes time to prepare for assessments. I'm going to go back here. So I use a lot of concept maps. At the beginning of the year, I have some different assignments and projects. I try to have them apply things where they can. And then as we get through into more of the course, I won't keep scrolling, there's lots of projects. So I find that the best way, students always say to me, why are you taking this class? And they say, I'm taking this class because I want to know why others do what they do. And I always say, well, let's start with knowing why you do what you do, right? Why do we behave the way we do? And so I have them in one unit try to modify a behavior. When we do cognition and memory, how can I improve my memory? They do a lifespan development project where they go back and they look at their milestones in cognition and social emotional development. And then in that project, they also try to predict how they're gonna be in the future. So it's like a time capsule. Most students tell me they save it and they look at it later. So I try to balance off all the time preparing for the exam. So we'll practice that a lot with discussing our ideas with one another and preparing for this exam. So I hope that's a good overview, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer them.